Hi everyone, my name is Karen. I am the creative mind behind K Middleton Design Studios. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen me posting regular updates on this particular piece under the handle of KM Design 2020. I wanted to kind of talk to you today a little bit about the inspiration for this quilt. One thing I didn't expect when I first began this project was to find a bunch of inspiration in the story of the Watchtower, and this is currently the status of the Watchtower. And I just really, for International Women's Day, I thought this would be a great time to talk a little bit about the history. Mary Elizabeth Jane Colter was born on April 4th, 1869. She was an American architect and designer, and one of the very few female architects working in America in her day. And this is during a time when women weren't able to be licensed as architects, and so she's already, at the turn of the century, breaking through a bunch of barriers for women in order to do what she wants to do, and that's design amazing architecture in the Southwest. She is most noted for her buildings in the Grand Canyon. At the time, she was working for the Fred Harvey Company and the Santa Fe Railroad, but what she's really known for and remembered for are a lot of her works in the Grand Canyon, most notably on the southern rim. These works, they include the 1905 Hopi House, the 1914 Hermit's Rest, as well as the 1932 Desert View Tower, Watchtower. And the Watchtower is like a 70-foot tall building, rock tower, hidden on a steel frame, and is actually part of the inspiration for this quilt. For me, when I was deciding what project I wanted to work on, I had this very vivid memory of coming up to the Watchtower, and it was sunset, the sun was starting to go down, and I just saw the rays of colorful light, the oranges and the yellows and the purples and the reds from sunset merging into the blue. And the light was behind the tower from the angle we were at. And so it was this very dark, shadowed effect. And it was very vivid. And I remember feeling this amazing sense of awe and wonder and feeling very small. I'm thinking, wow, I've entered this is the Grand Canyon. I have entered. This is the entrance to the Grand Canyon for me. And so when I was researching this quilt and trying to figure out how did I want to approach and share this semblance of emotion, I stumbled upon the history of the Watchtower, and that's where I learned about Mary Colter. Or what I found interesting about the Watchtower and the history is that she also found inspiration from this land, from the Grand Canyon. And in particular, she found inspiration from the people who lived in the Grand Canyon long before all the rest of us did. Was inspired by the architecture of the ancestral Puebloan people. Really, the Watchtower is an homage to these prehistoric artisans and builders and how they built their structures that are still around today. She intentionally made sure that none of the rocks used to build the Watchtower were worked or cut. She pulled directly from the landscape around her, just as these prehistoric peoples would have. And that was done in order to create this sense of organic, the structure just existed there. It wasn't intentionally designed. It was meant to meld into the landscape of the Grand Canyon, which I think is genius. And you can tell if you go see it, it's amazing to see. And I hope you folks will eventually get a chance to go see it if you haven't already. One thing that was great that I learned about Mary Colter was that her structures, in particular at the Grand Canyon, really set this precedent. So she was innovative for her time, as well as a badass glass breaker. That she set the precedent for using on-site materials to build these massive, large-scale design elements. And even today, her work has had enormous influence on some of the decor styles that we know and love today, such as the Pueblo Deco and the Santa Fe styles. Sometimes you'll see it referred to as Southwest style, and that comes out of her influence because Mary was very inspired by the Native American tribes that were local to the Grand Canyon, the Hopi, Navajo. All of these is where she pulled a lot of inspiration. Even in her design choices, there was a lot of Native American artistry and influence. Great example. If you go to the Watchtower and you go inside of the Watchtower, these beautiful and gorgeous murals on the walls of the Watchtower, and those were painted by Hopi artist Fred Kabute. And they were an homage to the Hopi history of the Hopi people and their spirituality and their culture. And you can still see that to this day. And the National Park Service has done a wonderful job preserving and continuing to preserve this beauty and sacred art. And so what was even more amazing to me about her was the fact that not only was she a woman ahead of her time, but she had lasting influence in terms of design. Even today we talk about use what's in the environment. Well, she's already ahead of the time doing that. She's very innovative. She's working in a male-dominated field and breaking through glass barriers. And she's working with the local people to really share their culture and their heritage with others. And I think kind of the idea of historic preservation and cultural preservation was something that she really had a lot in mind when she was designing her works, especially around the Southwest. So if you're interested in learning more about this amazing, badass, chain-smoking, woman who just broke through a bunch of barriers and was ahead of her time, very innovative, and just did, what she wanted to do, which was be an architect in a time where women weren't allowed to be architects, I would highly recommend checking out the National Park Service website. I'm going to post it right here down below. And take a look and learn a little bit more about Mary Colter and some more of her buildings at the Grand Canyon. If you're interested in my work, as you can see, this is an in-progress piece behind me, but if you're interested in learning more about my work, you can either follow me on Instagram at kmdesign2020, or you can go check out my website at kmiddletondesignstudios.com. Other than that, I wish you all a celebratory International Women's Day, and thank you for watching.